welcome back to the Western Wisconsin Sports Podcast. I'm Jeremy Nygaard, joined by Jordan Lehman, and Prescott basketball state champion, Ripon Hall of Famer. Anything else we want to throw in there?
There's too much to list. We'll get to it all.
Johnson, here we go, ladies and gentlemen.
How you doing, fellas? Good. I'm glad to be here.
We're glad to have you. So we're gonna just get started right off the bat. Everybody that's tuning in is probably pretty familiar with Western Wisconsin sports and the success that Prescott basketball's had over the last 10 seasons. You've been a huge part of that. In fact, I started a Twitter account, and the first reply I got was, "You should learn more about Prescott basketball," basically. And I said, "Oh yeah, I know plenty about him. I lost to him 6 times." So this is where we are. Jordan's got a whole bunch of questions queued up, and I'm excited to hear all you have to say, Nick. So thanks again for joining us, and this should be fun.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Coach Johnson, thanks so much for coming on. It's good to formally meet you. And yeah, this is going to be fun. How are things right now with the team? How's everybody doing? What's it like with the COVID stuff? How's the state of Prescott basketball?
Well, I tell you what, right now, we just found out actually about an hour and a half ago that our JV is now shut down for a couple of weeks with COVID. We have a positive test on our JV team, and our C team is also on pause right now. We had a positive test there. So we are just varsity right now. We're just varsity here for the next week and a half, 2 weeks, and it is what it is. We're happy we're still playing at the varsity level. We wish the other two were still playing, but we're all in the same boat. And, hopefully we stay healthy and the season continues. But if we have to push pause to keep everyone safe and that's the right thing to do, we'll do that.
Do you need me, just real quick, I'm guessing you're probably down some coaches. How quick do you want me there?
No, we got a game at 7. So we are actually down. We are down 5 out of 8 coaches right now. So
holy smokes!
Main assistant tonight. Main assistant is Petey Brookshaw. So he's back. He's back from school, and we got him signed up for the next month. So that's exciting news for us.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah.
And you don't need me. You got Petey.
Yeah, right. No, he came in. He got back about a week ago, and he's been coming to practices and helping. And now that we've lost 5 out of 8 coaches, we said, you know what, Petey, you're going to be on the bench now helping. So we're excited to have him.
I love it. I'm watching now.
I told him he can coach, and I'll be his assistant. He's not ready for that, though. He said.
Well, it might not take too long for him to just take over. I mean, that's what Petey does, right? Petey takes over.
Doesn't know how to lose.
Nope. I never saw it. Not firsthand.
Yep.
That's a good trait to have. Sitting at 3-1, 1-0 in conference. What are your initial thoughts of the guys this year and their play so far? They put up quite a bit of points I've seen through box scores and through watching. Who stepped up? Who's obviously we talked a little bit about Momlove. He's a guy that, me and Jeremy both last year were very impressed with him. But who else has kind of stepped up and filled that scoring void? Because losing over 70 points a game last year to graduation, it was a big question mark, I know, for us as fans. But
yeah, I mean, losing 10 seniors and losing a couple of seniors who were, a couple of best players we've ever had in Prescott basketball history is not an easy couple holes to fill. But, coming in, we knew kind of what we were going to get with Jordan, and I'll start with him. He's been unbelievable, and not just as a player, but as our captain. As a sophomore, to kind of take over the program as that leadership role has been so impressive. And his knowledge and his basketball IQ for that age is it's something, only a few players I can think of in the last 10 years that have been to that level already as he is. And like I said, he's been nothing but great, and not just talking about his play, but a couple other kids that stepped up. We have a freshman, Dallas Wallen. We knew coming in we were going to expect big things out of him. But I tell you what, he's way far past right now, above and beyond I thought he'd be at this point in the season. He's a 6'2" guard. He's long, But again, another guy with basketball IQ, he just gets things defensively, offensively. He always seems to be in the right position at the right time. Right now, I say he's our best defender. As a freshman to say that, that's pretty impressive. And he leads us in rebounds. He's second in points. So he's a guy that just fills up the stat sheet. And, he's a name that we've been kind of talking about for 3, 4, 5 years, even when he was in elementary school. So he has not disappointed so far. And I think of the Somerset game, going 7 for 7, I think. No, 5 for 5 or 6 for 6 from the line. I can't remember. In pressure situations, come down as a freshman, hit those free throws. But he's been great. Other guys, we have 6 seniors. We got 3, 4 seniors who will give us minutes at times. We got a couple juniors. We expected big things. Aiden Russell and Benny Roll, both starters who have played productive minutes. Again, guys are they're kind of coming to their own. They're learning as we go. Big minutes from those guys. And then, we have Walker Lentz, who's been hurt. He got hurt in practice after the first game, a returning starter from us, from the only returning starter for us from last year's team. And he hopefully is back soon. He plays great minutes for us. He kind of does all the dirty work. And again, he's got that experience from last year's squad. So far in the year, I tell you what, I think we're farther along than I thought we'd be with so many new bodies and new faces. But that's not saying we don't have a lot of room for improvement. But each day in practicing, we're getting better and we're taking baby steps. But we definitely are excited to see what we have right now. And again, we're building, and it's exciting.
Looking at the conference, I know me and Nygaard have talked just as fans and also coaching last year, but a lot of talent, I think, in a couple different teams. And for you, as you prepare for this conference slate, obviously already having a good win over Somerset, what are some teams that you look at right now and think, we got a lot of work to do to be able to take care of business?
Yeah, I tell you what, our conference seems to be pretty loaded this year, from top to bottom, as good as I think from top to bottom that I can remember in a long time. And it's one of those things, people have always said, any given night, anyone in the conference can knock anybody off. But I really feel strongly that's true this year. The conference experienced. You return back a lot of experienced players. I think our conference is very well coached. I think we have 8 very good conference coaches and who prepare well, and going into each night that you're going to get the team's best effort. So, I just think of the St. Croix Central right now, how well they look already early going, and how strong they look. And, we have some teams that are just getting off, just tipping off with Baldwin, New Richmond, teams like that. But what I see from Ellsworth, in Somerset already, man, it's going to be a heck of a battle going through it. So hopefully everyone stays healthy and we're able to complete the season with everything going on. But like I said, it's going to be an exciting conference here.
Yeah, it looks to be exciting. There's names throughout the conference. Like you said, Central's got a ton of dudes, and Richmond with CJ. But kind of looking back to last year, I'm kind of curious, just for anybody following your team last year, obviously a ton of success. Like you said, a lot of great players. Parker, Doffing, Holte, among others. If you could just walk us through kind of the end of last season. It goes without saying that it must have been heartbreaking. But what did that look like around Prescott basketball?
It was devastating. It really was. And obviously the bigger picture was, whatever with the COVID, and that was a bigger deal than high school basketball. But just talking about Prescott basketball and high school basketball, man, our kids took it hard, and especially our seniors. We have 10 seniors, and the year before how it ended, we got upset by Central in the regional finals. So those kids worked so hard in the off season to come back, and take that another step to play in a sectional final, to get a trip down to Madison and kind of redeem from what happened the year before. It was a tough pill to swallow. And like I said, I just felt so bad for them. And last year our record was so good, but what goes on behind the scenes that people don't know. But it was a tough year for us. It took us a while to kind of get going. We lost a couple big games in the Hastings tournament. We just weren't a team. It took us 3 months to finally get to where we thought we'd get to early in the season. And we had a lot of things going on, and we corrected all those things. We had players that it took a while to buy into what we were doing. And when we did, I mean, look how we were playing down the year. It finally just clicked, and boy, we had everything clicking at the right time, and then bam, we get shut down after that Central game. So, and to get shut down and not know it, I think if the WIA looking back, I just wish they would have gave that, hey, this is going to be your last game. This is your final. I wish they would have came out with that, just to give a little, to know that, to tell our kids, hey, zip, fellas, leave everything on the line, and then to win that game and 3 hours later to get that phone call. It is what it is, but it doesn't make it any easier to deal with. And, we'll always wonder what might have been, and like I said, we would have loved the matchup with the Dells. They were such a good team, and that would have been a great game to play, even with no fans, even with no fans, just to play that game and see who would have advanced. And then obviously who knows at Madison if we would have got there. But yeah, as you probably can tell, it's still heartbreaking. Like I said, I just felt so bad for our kids, and they deserve more, but we weren't the only ones that put in that position, but it still hurts.
Yeah. Last year's seniors, a couple names stand out to, I know, Nygaard and I, Parker Nielsen, Jacob Doffing, both kids that, could score, could do everything. Talking about Parker, he's a guy that, I've been watching some of your guys' old clips from the 2018 state team and 2017 state team when he was a freshman. What was it like seeing him come up through the ranks and help out on a varsity level so early, and then obviously finish an outstanding career?
Yeah, he's one of the greatest I've ever seen. He's one of the greatest players I've ever coached and that I've ever even just watched play. And the way he developed every year, another one of those kids way back in elementary school when I had him in Fiat was like, man, I can't wait till this kid comes up. Can't wait to coach this kid. And again, he was another kid that he was everything we expected out of him. And not just his work ethic was unbelievable. And if you looked at his body size every year, how much he worked in the weight room and got bigger and stronger to make his game more complete. He wasn't much of a driver his freshman year. He was kind of an outside player. And then all of a sudden his freshman year, he started to develop that game where he could get in the lane. And then junior year, senior, he was unstoppable from the way he could shoot and the way he could drive. So again, his work ethic, the way he played, it was great to be around. And like I said, I've never seen someone that talented before. And he's one of the most talented I've ever seen. And he's already missed. He's going to be missed. He's already having success at the next level at a big time program. And like I said, he just was one of those times. Jeremy and I talked about this. You just kind of sat back and just were just in awe of him sometimes, the things he could do on a basketball floor.
Yeah, the thing that he did that impressed me the most was he finished at the rim. And you can turn on big-time college basketball. You could turn on professional basketball and see guys struggle through contact. That's one of the knocks, if you watch the Timberwolves at all with Jared Culver, is that he can get to the rack, but he finishes in less than 50% of his attempts. And it's like I felt like Parker probably made baskets 90% of the time. And the 10% of the time the ball didn't go in, it's because he didn't make it and got fouled. A lot of times he was getting fouled and making it. And it's like it's hard to defend a kid that can do that at half the rate that he could do it. But when he was doing it as often as he was, it changed games, and it left your shooters, out on the perimeter. And watching that Somerset game from the front row, Malvolov just kind of goes nuts in the first half, and it's like he got so many of those looks because of Parker. And as an opposing coach, it was really, really hard to even try to slow down. And for you, I'd look down at you and you'd just kind of be chilling. Like, that looks like fun, Nick.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, he made my job really easy for 4 years because how talented he was. And like you said, he was so good because if you came up on him, he'd go by you and he'd finish at the rim. And if you gave him cushion, then he'd shoot threes and he'd make 5-6 threes a game. So again, the way he could drive and then the way he could kick it, like you said, it opened up so many open shots for the Mom Loves and Holte on the wings and stuff like that. And even the fact that, for Dauphin, how good he was, it was really tough to double Dauphin because of, you double Dauphin, you're opening some lanes for Parker. So Parker just opened everything up offensively for us. And I think in the Central game in sectionals where they really want to take Parker away. They really Kopez guarded him, and he did a nice job on Parker. But Parker just kind of got through that game and says, you know what, if you're going to take me away, I'm just going to pass out to the Malmuts, and we'll just make 3 after 3. And that's exactly what happened. And Parker was so unselfish that game, and I don't know what he ended up with. Look back, but him and Doffing, I don't think had over 20 maybe combined, and then the Malmuts just shot the lights out. So, and again, that's why we were so dangerous, because we could beat you in so many different ways. And like I said, Parker could have 40 one night, and then he could have the 10 assists the next night. And like I said, he was just such a weapon.
Right. And you've had a number of players that, you know, watching them play throughout their careers, it was, I mean, watching Petey play, Owen Hamilton. What's it been like for you as a coach to see not only talent, but also see the work, see the development of these great players?
Spoiled. I'm dead. I know it sounds, but we've been so spoiled, and it's the truth. Like, people are like, oh no, it's the truth. We've been spoiled, and then to mix in that kind of talent, and then to mix in those kind of kids, and then to mix in the work ethic they have. Like, I don't have to tell those kids to get in the weight room. I don't have to tell those kids to get in the gym and get. They just do it. And if I had to do anything, the Clay Seiferts and the Parkers and the PDs and the Owens and all those big time players, and now the Malmut Jordan, it's like I have to tell them to take a day off. Like, hey, no, you need to rest your body, fellas. It's been 6 straight days, and it's like, oh, come on, coach. No, you have to rest. And well, that's just going to trickle down to everyone else in the program. I said, look what these guys are doing, you know, and you wonder why they're so good. You wonder why they're so talented. And that just feeds off our youth programs. They see these guys, and they're such good leaders, and they're good kids. They come from great families. So, yeah, not just spoiled with talent, but just like I said, kids that they're so coachable. I mean, those guys feel like sons to me because how close we've gotten over the years, and they're just good people. And thinking about high school kids these days, it seems a lot of them lack social skills, you know, because all the things going on with the cell phones. And those kids, all those are top players. Man, I could sit down with them and talk about anything for a half hour. We could talk about life. We could talk about basketball. And then it just made it so fun to coach those guys. And like I said, that's the reason we've been successful. Like, I think of my first year 10 years ago, we come up, we're picked 7th out of 8th in conference my first year. You know, we got the Michael Little, you know, we got Billy Brookshaw, the oldest Brookshaw. We got Logan Johnson. We got these seniors, phenomenal kids. And then we got that senior class with like the Clay Seifert, Charlie Tace, and that class, that first team that went to state. And it's like, I remember coming in, I'm like, man, if it's like this every year, we got kids like this who work that hard and buy into things. And that first team I coached 10 years ago, they set the tone. We went to a sectional that first year, and then basketball, it just kind of like sparked Prescott basketball. It's like, we know Prescott can be really good. You know, we can. Look at that team did. And it just was like a trickle-down effect through the years, like, and everyone wanted to be better than everybody. Every team didn't want to be that team. Like, you know what? Last year's team went to state. We don't want to just go to sectionals. We want to be better than that team, and that's the way it's been every year. Even our kids this year, they're like, you know, we've already heard, you know, this is going to be a rebuilding year for Prescott. You know, we lost 10 seniors. You know, we're young. And that just fires our kids up. And they're like, no, we don't want to go backwards. You know, we always want to keep moving forward. And again, I credit that to the players we've had, and we've had unbelievable coaching as well. I think a Papatak has been there since day one with me, and like I said, we're just fortunate all around to have what we've had, and again, even looking what's coming up, you know, the next few years, we got talent coming through the middle school. We got talent right now in the high school. So again, it's like, man, I'm lucky. I'm a lucky guy to be where I'm at, and I tell you, I know I'm fortunate, and it kind of comes down to like backtrack. You know, I'm an elementary phy ed teacher, you know, which helps to get those relationships with those kids when they're young too. Like, even though right now we've got 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, I'm like, man, you know, that guy, he's got potential. He's gonna be a good high school player. And so, you know, you build those relationships when they're young, and then I stick with them in middle school. You know, I see them in middle school, and I see, you know, keep that relationship and build on that. And then when they get to high school, it feels like I already know them, and I got their trust. And so again, and being from Prescott too, you know, born and raised in Prescott obviously helps too, and knowing a lot of parents. And so we just got something good going here, and you know, hopefully it stays that way, and I think it will. And it's great. It's this position I'm glad I'm in.
So how often throughout the course of the year do you have a prep and you decide, you know what, you put your whistle around your neck, you're going on the playground, and you get boys and you're like, let's go. And you run them through some drills.
Never.
It's never happened? In my mind, that happens all the time.
No.
I can't explain it.
Now, basketball unit in elementary fight, basketball units might be 2 to 3 weeks in my classes. Basketball unit might be like 8 weeks. And
There we go.
No, I'm kidding. No, it's not. That people always tease me, how long is your basketball unit? But no, it's. But even like that, though, like going out on the playground, when obviously everything was a little normal around here, but joining a game of lightning or playing a kid in a game of pig, or at recess we come inside, and just those things right there, just to build those relationships when the kids are young. I think it's been really important for us. Like I said, I know all our kids by name. I know all their background stuff when they get to high school because I've had them, or I know their families, or I know someone that knows them, and that helps. I think that's a big deal. And like I said, when they can trust you at that youth age and they trust you growing up, and then like, hey, I've had Coach Johnson now for 7-8 years. That's an important part of our program.
Yeah, and I mean, we talked a little bit earlier about the amount of wins, but being 195 and 39 overall, 114 and 14 in conference. You at one point, your team won 60 consecutive conference games. The list goes on. All these things that Prescott basketball has done: multiple sectional trips, multiple state trips, a state championship. One of the most memorable state championship finishes probably in Wisconsin basketball history with PD Schott. What's it like at the beginning? You mentioned a little bit about how the kids wanted to work hard, but for you as a young coach, what were your thoughts on when you looked at yourself in the mirror, like what was Nick Johnson saying to himself at the beginning?
Oh, well, I tell you what, going way back, and a lot of people don't know this, I applied when the jobs came out, the girls and the boys position opened up at the same time. And the assistant boys coach, Sean Shipman, who ended up being our JV coach the first few years, I applied for the girls position first. And then I just thought about it more and more, and I wanted to coach boys basketball. I don't know, I just, being fortunate enough to play college basketball, like, I think at this sport I wanted to do boys basketball. So I changed my thought. I applied for the boys. I was fortunate enough to get that boys position. And then going into that first year, again, I remember getting that first yearbook, and I remember who we had coming back, and we weren't experienced. We really brought Billy Brookshire was the only one that was really had any varsity experience. So I can see why we were ranked 7th out of 8th, but I remember looking around and be like, man, this team's gonna be pretty good. And we just kind of built. We won 18 games that first year. We went to a sectional, and after we got that first taste of sectionals, boy, I tell you what, it was like, man, we can do this. We can become a great program. We can make this a norm. And that's when it kind of started, the off-season work. And then, you get that taste of sectionals. And again, even with our youth, they were at those games. They saw the 2,000, 3,000 fans at that GET. And they saw, hey, we almost beat that GET. We almost upset that GET. It was one of the best teams we've ever coached against. So we kind of built off that first year. And I remember looking myself in the mirror and be like, hey, why can't we go to state? Why can't we win a state championship? And why, because it was just one of those things where baseball is always the talk in Prescott, always baseball. And baseball's been so good, and it's still so good. But like, I remember talking to coaches like, why can't basketball and football and baseball and all other sports, why can't we all be good at and excel? And the kids put the time in, and 3 years later, well, that next year, actually, we went down to Aquinas that year, and we almost upset them, the Bronson Canyon team, in the regional finals. And then, boom, we're back at sectionals. We lose the sectional finals to Elk Mound. And then that next year, we go to our first trip at state. And then, obviously, then we're fortunate enough to go to the next, and it's kind of trickle-down effect. But like I said, I just think of those teams and how talented those teams were, and how hard they worked. And it wasn't by accident. Yeah, people are going to say, yeah, you were talented. And we were. I just admitted we were talented. But the work ethic and the commitment those kids made to the program, there was a reason they got to where they got to. And like I said, I think when kids really believe, like, hey, we can go to a section, we can go to a state tournament, this is what we have to do. And they do that. And then obviously the results show. We just keep building off that stuff.
What was it like finally punching the ticket to the Kohl Center in 2017? You had Owen Hamilton, obviously a legendary player in the Middle Border Conference, Petey Brookshaw, among others. What was it like for you? You know, like you just said, you kind of had an epiphany where you're like, we can do this, and then to see it come to reality.
Yeah. I mean, it's like we it's like we took baby steps to everything. It's like the first sectional trip we went to sectionals, and then the next one we went to a sectional final, and then bam, we went to a state. The state trips, we went to state. We won our first state game, and then obviously we won the state. So it's like we took baby steps along the way. But you know, when we lost to Brown Deer with the 15 team, it was just, I remember everything was just, everyone was in awe. Coaches, players, it was just, you know, you walk in that place, it's like, oh my gosh. And, you know, I don't think our kids played scared or anything like that, but it was just a new experience for them. I mean, that's a big deal. And then, you know, 2 years later, some of those big returns, you have Owen, you got PD, they walked it. And it wasn't just, hey, we're happy to be here. You know, we're good. We're at state. We're happy. And then we get that first win. And then it was like, you know, now let's get after that state championship. And then we obviously lose the state championship in Xavier. And then again, when the next year, it's like, no, we've got there. We've got the first win. Now let's get that gold ball. And so, like I said, that first state championship, I think, set the tone. Like, okay, yeah, this is the first time in our history, our town history, but the kids wanted more, and they thrived to get more. And again, 2 years later, we get that first win. So that first year's team, I think that really set the tone for us.
Yeah, super fun to watch those teams. And obviously the legendary shot by Petey. Take us back to that moment. I know that me and Nigar joked earlier this week talking that kind of had the Jim Valvano run onto the court. But I mean, it must have been everything you'd ever dreamed it to be.
I joke about this, but it's the truth. I don't remember from when the shot went in to what I did and it ran up the PD half court. I watched the film, like, it's like I blacked out. I'm not even kidding. Like, I don't remember running out on the court. And then I remember if you watch the video, you can tell, like, I think I came to my senses, like, what am I doing out here? I'm like chasing down high school kids, and then I'm like, I backed away. But just how that all played out, like that game was the back and forth battle. And then, you know, to let it go out, let PD have the ball. And I mean, as the greatest kid of all time, one of the greatest kids of all time, and one of the greatest players of all time, to make that shot in that situation is incredible. But if you knew PD and you knew how he is, it's like, you know what, it would have been more surprising if you would have missed it. And I mean that. Like, if that shot rims out, I'd have been like, I just can't believe PD he missed that shot. Where he made it, it's like, well, of course PD made it. You know, why wouldn't he make that shot? And it's just, it's even still watching it. I can watch it. It never gets old. It's just like, oh man, that really happened to our program. It really happened. He really made that shot. So, it's awesome. We'll never forget it. Obviously, the town will never forget it. And like you mentioned before, like, it's one of the greatest things, one of the greatest moments that Wisconsin basketball has ever seen. And like I said, it couldn't have happened to a better person than PD and our team that year, man. We had a great team and great kids.
The most surprising part of that play was that PD gave the ball up right away. Right? I mean, he gave it up, and then he gave it back, and then he got it back. But that was the part watching it. I mean, I was kind of behind your bench up a ways. He gave it up, and I'm like, I don't know if he's going to be able to get it back. Fortunately, he did. But I went to – did you play in the sectional – was it the sectional semis or the sectional finals that you played the Dells at Menominee?
Yep, the sectional finals.
And Petey was in foul trouble, bad foul trouble.
4 fouls with 12 to go, yep.
Yeah, and so that game ended up being I think you ended up winning by double figures. But that was very, very close and very kind of dicey for a while when he's got 4. Your other guard at that point, I think he made some big shots. I can't think of what his name was.
Joe Rusin.
Yep. Yeah. And it was like guys stepped up in a huge – I mean, Menominee's not an arena like the Kohl Center. But that's a big old place, and it was full. And guys that just were able to step up, because that could have been the end of the season pretty easily. And it wasn't, and the rest is, you know, kind of a fairy tale, and it was fun to be a part of, as you know, from afar, just to watch that happen and know that, you know, how close things were to not happening. mean, one thing goes the wrong way and it's a completely different story that we're telling. And that's kind of the fun of sport, in my opinion, is, you say any given night and you can zoom down on that more and say any given play. And to me, that's just what makes this also fun.
And to even go further back, we beat Central that year in the regional finals by 3 points.
Yep.
Central has a 3-pointer at the buzzer.
Yep.
To goes in and out, or would have tied us. We went to overtime in the regional finals versus Central that year, and then we got Ellsworth that next game. Ellsworth beat us by, Ellsworth beat us by 6 or 7 at half at New Richmond for the sectionals. Then, like you mentioned, then we go to the Dells. We're up 10 at half. They wiped that out in 2 minutes. The second half, we're tied. PD gets in foul trouble. So just how those things played out. And if you ask our kids, even to right now, who the best team we played that year, no disrespect to East Troy, no disrespect to Velders, because Velders was one of the greatest teams of all time. They'll tell you that Wisconsin Dells was the best team we played. They ran that 2-1-2, and they were so long and athletic. And the Tanner Brandt kid,
he was.
I had to be able to coach him in the All-Star game that state championship year. And I tell you what, he was unbelievable, unbelievable talent. And then obviously the Tuma kid for Velders was the same way, just unbelievable player. But like you mentioned, just how things worked out, in those games, how we just found a way. We found a way to move on. We didn't play our best game against East Troy the first game. But we found a way to win. And then you mentioned the state championship game with PD, getting that ball back from Tayson, and the average Prescott fan who doesn't know much about basketball, he's like, oh, Coach Johnson, what a great play you drew up there to get Tayson the ball and flip it back. How many times did you guys work on that play? No, never. I remember he threw the ball at Tayson. I was like, oh, man, I don't have enough time to call timeout, and Tayson knew better. Tayson was one of those kids that there's no way Tayson wasn't giving that ball back to Pete. He just knew it. He knew it. So it just kind of worked out. And the way they, it did give him an opportunity to run that switch. And Pete just had that, just that inch of room to make that shot. And again, now it's all history. But, yeah, how those things all trickled out that year. And it's crazy how close, like you said, it could have been a regional. We could have lost in the regionals. So it worked out for the best.
Yeah, for sure.
For us, right. for Prescott.
And PD, we obviously excellent basketball player, but baseball being his sport now, playing at North Dakota State, having success. I think I read that he started every game that he's been able to start. And looking into your career, I was not as aware as maybe Nygaard was of your history in baseball. For people that don't know, I mean, you're pretty good. Ripon Hall of Fame, Prescott Hall of Fame, career at Ripon, 403 batter, 42 home runs, a ton of RBIs, a ton of runs scored. One thing that I found really interesting was who you were coached by. Coach Gordy Gillespie, is that how you say that?
Yep.
The winningest coach in college baseball history for a long time. 1,800 wins, over 1,800 wins. So taking us through kind of your high school and then college baseball career, and obviously basketball, multi-sport athlete, and very good at all of them. What are some fond memories for you from Ripon and even from Prescott, whether it was playing for Coach Gillespie or for any of your coaches along the way?
Well, I'll start with Gordy. That was the reason I chose Ripon was because of Gordy Gillespie. He was the most unique, greatest person I've ever met in my life. He just, I mean, when we were there, he was 77, 78 years old, and just the way he went about life, the way he went about coaching, I learned so much through him. And I mean, he was the reason I chose Fayed and the reason I probably got into coaching, because I remember sitting down with him and he's like, what do you want to do with your life after, if baseball doesn't work out? And he's like, you can't play sports your whole life, and I said, well, I said, I'd love to have an impact on people's lives. He goes, you got to be a coach. He goes, you got to be a coach. And he's like, so I said, you know what? He goes, be a gym teacher. Be a gym teacher. He goes, that's the best. You can use your preps, to get ready for scouting. And he was just an old timer and he gave me that advice. And I remember I ran with it. I didn't know what I was going to do as my freshman year at Ripon. And so he pointed me in the right direction. And again, he was such a father figure. And like I said, he passed away 5 years ago, and like I said, the things he did for me in my life, it goes beyond words. And the memories we had in college, when we played on some great teams. I was fortunate to play on some great basketball teams. We won conference a couple years. We had opportunity to play in the NCAA tournament a couple years in college, and that was just unbelievable to play in front of those kind of people in the NCAA tournament and to play at that level. And then obviously baseball, we had so much success as a team in college baseball. I thought our teams were as good as many D2, maybe even small D1 teams because the talent we had. And, my best friend from high school, Nick Thone, we went to Ripon together. We were always like, hey, let's go play baseball together. We're a package deal. And we chose Ripon again because of Gordy. And like I said, it was a no-brainer. The first time you met that guy, it was just like you just talked to him like, man, I want to play for that guy. I will run through a wall for that guy. And that's what we did. We're like, man, because we both were thinking we were going to go to Viterbo, play there, and then we had a couple of our offers, and we're like, no, let's go play for that guy. So that was the direction we went for college. And then, high school, another, getting to play for the coaches we played through in high school, with Hopkins and Barch and Jeff Ryan and Coach Block. And I mean, you got Hall of Famer in Jeff Ryan, you got a Hall of Famer in Steve Block, Dave Hopkins, football coach. I'm sure he'll be in the Hall of Fame here soon. He's coaching in Minnesota still. It's just the people that I got to play for and how much they influenced my life. And I was very fortunate, to play for those guys and guys that I still, like, even today, I talk to, almost daily, and they are Coach Block, Coach Ryan. Those guys are still giving me advice. So fortunate that way. And like I said, and then obviously going back to Gordy, and then Gordy's son, Bob Gillespie, was the basketball coach at Ripon. So playing for his son, and he's in the Hall of Fame as well. He's in the NCAA Hall of Fame. So it's like I said, there's a reason we chose there, and we're fortunate to go there and play for a couple people like that.
Super interesting. Stumbling upon that information, seeing his career record and all the quotes I would find online. I mean, you could just tell that he's somebody that changed a lot of people's lives, and that's pretty cool. Growing up in Prescott, was your favorite sport baseball? Was that the one that you thought, this is kind of fun, or did you just love them all equally?
Growing up, my favorite sport was basketball. I loved basketball. Everything about it. And then eventually baseball became my best sport. I was the best at that sport, but I still love basketball. So, and I love football too. I tell you what, Friday Night Lights were just awesome, so going to college, I wanted to play two sports, and I knew that probably wasn't going to happen if you went to a D1, a D2. So that kind of made my decision, like, hey, if I go to Ripon, I get to play for Gordy Gillespie, I get to play for his son, and I get to play basketball and baseball, and obviously get a great education at a private school. So that was the reason I chose there, to get that opportunity to play two sports. And I was fortunate enough to, step right in as a freshman and have that opportunity and got to play those two sports right away. So like I said, growing up, it was basketball. And then even to like today, like, it's funny, people are like, what's your favorite sport? It's like every sport's like, I love watching football. I love coaching basketball, but I still, I love playing baseball. So it's like they all just kind of mix in different ways. So just a sports nut, obviously that way. And obviously my job being a FIAD teacher, get to coach sports and teach kids about sports every day and activities and games is, how can't you love it? So how can't you love that? And then obviously now I have an opportunity to coach basketball, and then this spring, get an opportunity to coach girls softball. So I'm excited about that. I know I'm going to be really busy. I got a wife that's very supportive. We've got 3 kids, and I didn't know it was going to be doable with doing 2 sports, and it's going to be interesting just being gone from family so much. But my wife is supportive. She was the one that kind of pushing me. She's like, do softball. She's like, do it. She's like, why not? So why not? Here we go. So after the season, we jump right into that, and we'll see how that goes.
You must really drive her nuts at home when you're bored.
Maybe she wants me out of the house. Maybe she's like, get him away. Maybe this is a good thing to get him away. So yeah, maybe you're right. Sure,
that's exactly what it has to be. Like you must have been home a lot. The season was done. You couldn't do a whole lot in March, and you were driving her nuts. And she's like, Maybe think about coaching a different sport, Nick. Do something else.
I tell you what, I was so depressed and down after last year's basketball season. I thought she didn't know what to do with me. Man, I think she kept saying, "Oh, the sun's going to come up, Nick," and it took a while after to realize that life did go on after last year's basketball season. But no, she's very supportive, and like I said, you couldn't do it without a supportive wife. You couldn't coach anything, but to be able to do two. They got to be on board. The wife's got to be on board, and we got great kids too who think it's pretty cool that Dad's a coach.
Yeah. Hey, so from the graduation at Ripon to the starting of your coaching career, there was some time in between, right? How many years? A handful of years.
But so 2003 to there was about 7 years there.
So what were you doing?
I was trying to play baseball. So
Okay.
after I graduated from Ripon, I had high hopes that I was going to have an opportunity to play some type of professional baseball. I really was hoping to get drafted. I just, going through the college years, talking to many teams and scouts, I was very confident I was going to have an opportunity in the draft to play for some major league team. And it didn't work out. It didn't happen. And I didn't give up my dream. I said, you know what, I'm going to go somewhere. I'm going to keep pushing. So I ended up doing a couple of tryouts, multiple tryouts. I'd say a dozen tryouts after I graduated. And I ended up doing one in Illinois. And they ended up signing me to an independent team in Chicago called the Windy City Thunderbolts, which is an independent team like the St. Paul Saints, same type of league. Just a development of the league, trying to get showcased, trying to move up the ladder. And I did that for 5 summers. And I was gone 5 months of the year. We played over 100 games every year. And we got to go all over the place. I mean, we played in some stadiums that were just unbelievable. And the memories, it was great. It was tough, though. I mean, it wasn't, we got treated well, but, we're done 9-10 hour bus trips. You play a 3-game series at St. Louis. You're on a bus trip to Washington, Pennsylvania. Then, you go to them. We're all over the place. And it was some long summers, but I just wasn't ready to give up that dream. I thought, obviously I believed in myself. I thought I was good enough to maybe get that shot at the next level. And it just never worked out. It never panned out. And it wasn't, looking back, it wasn't because I didn't try. And I did everything I thought I could do to get that opportunity. It didn't work out. And then I finally hung up the cleats. Obviously I kept playing amateur ball for Prescott. And then, I'm like, I need to get back into teaching. I need to get back into coaching. And that's kind of where I started subbing in Prescott. I went back to get my adapted PE license. And then everything just kind of worked out. The boys position opened up. My FIAD job opened up all within like a month span. So it was like, bam, I got the FIAD job. The boys basketball job opened up the first year. And then things just took off from there. And it's funny how things work out, because there was a stretch there. It's like, I just, after baseball, I was like, now what? What am I going to do now? And then obviously those things panned out. And 10 years later, here I am talking to you guys. So
when was the last time you laced up the baseball spikes?
Last time was 4 years ago now, I think. I was 35. So, yep, it'll be 5 years this summer. So I miss it. I miss it a lot, but it's tough to find time. And now I found this other sport has a little ball, and I've never played golf. I never played golf till after I stopped playing baseball 4 years ago. And my buddies and I, we kind of got into it. And boy, I tell you, we're talking about a frustrating but addicting sport, boy, is golf. And I really enjoy doing that now. And, I'm not the best at it, but, just the whole aspect of golf, with your buddies and stuff. And I really enjoy that. But, I still ponder, you got 35 and older leagues for baseball, and I got some guys who are playing and they're always itching. They come back and play. So who knows? We'll see. But it's, like I said, it's tough to find the time with 3 kiddos.
I'm sure you say you're not great at golf. I'm sure you're better than you say you are. And I texted you once this summer and said, hey, do you golf? And you're like, not very well. And then I texted you a couple days later. I'm like, what are you doing? You're like, golfing. So I feel like there's some not truth to some of those statements.
Well, it's not because I'm not trying to get better. How about that? No, that's
fair enough.
Just see how far you can hit it. There's my mentality. Just see how far the ball goes. Hit the ball as far as you can.
Jordan and I went out on my birthday. Jordan had never golfed before. It was a kind of a wet day. We went out with a couple other teachers, and I don't even. There were some holes that him and I didn't finish because it's like, let's just pick it up, get in the cart, we'll go back to the clubhouse.
Maybe I will feel confident playing against you if that's the case.
I think you probably would. Spend my time trying to find the ball.
We'll get you those yellow ones. We'll get those. You can see
It
those.
doesn't matter when they're deep in the trees. It doesn't matter.
I love it.
I'd be remiss not to mention, me and Nygaard have talked a lot about this question. How much of your success do you owe to Matt Smith, or how hard has it been to do what you do successfully with Matt Smith around?
Oh man, that's funny. I tell you what, you want to talk about one of the greatest guys ever, though, it's Matt Smith. I tell you what he does for, in all seriousness, what he's doing for Prescott and how good of a job he does as an AD and assistant principal and stuff like that, man. And he got another guy that was born, from Prescott, stayed in Prescott. He dedicated himself to he coached for how many years? He coached basketball, he coached softball, he coached everything. He coached everything for Prescott, and now he's in that position. So we're so lucky to have him. But no, he's so easy to work with. He's so supportive. You ask him for something, and he does it right away. So no, I can't even joke about anything negative about Matt Smith. He's too good of a guy.
He strikes me as the type of guy that, like, the alarm goes off way too early. He wakes up with way too much energy, and he just carries that all the way through the day.
He's a go-getter. He's always doing something. Yep, he's always doing something. And you know what? He's seriously, I bet you right now, he gets to high school at 6:30, and he probably doesn't leave till 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock after games. So, I mean, and that's that, man, I tell you, the AD's got tough jobs, how long the days they have. But, like, even right now with the rescheduling and, oof, man,
Yeah, so how about your schedule? Talk about that a little bit, because that hasn't been real clean.
No, we opened the season. We postponed our first 3 games. I mean, we were supposed to open up with River Falls, Ellsworth, and New Richmond, and all 3 of them got moved back. Ellsworth because of football, and then in New Richmond and River Falls because of COVID restrictions. So we started the season a week later than we were supposed to, playing in Altoona. But like I said, it is what it is. I mean, everyone's in that same boat. And now it's like we are just wrapping off games. Now we got 4 games the next 5 days right now, and so that's the way I think it's going to be. The way, you shut this team down for 2 weeks. People are going to be itching to pick up games whenever we can pick up games. So I always tell the parents and the kids, man, it's day to day right now. It is day to day. We might play, we might play 2 games a week and we don't have any games. So keep your cell phones on and pay attention to messages.
Because Regis was originally on your schedule.
Yeah, that was supposed to be the UW Tip-Off Classic.
And your Somerset game was on the schedule, but Altoona wasn't, Mondovi wasn't.
Nope, yep.
So, I mean, that like, coaches, just from my experience, which was a couple years, very much creatures of habit. And so, I think probably in the fall more so than in the winter, where you do your certain things to prepare for teams and to have a curveball like that, or in your case, 3 or 4. I mean, maybe the baseball background helped. You were just ready for the breaking pitch.
You got to stay back on those. No, I just knew going in was going to be like that. So it's just, I think if you just told yourself, it's like, hey, this season's going to be crazy, and the bottom line is we just wanted the kids to play games. It doesn't matter. Everyone makes granted, everyone made a big deal about wearing the mask, and we got people who are still just, I can't believe the kids got to wear masks. I can't believe that they're, and it's like, you know what? You ask our kids right now, the people that have to wear the mask, if it's a big deal to them because they can play basketball games. And you got every kid right now saying, hey, I'll strap a mask to my face, I'll duct tape it to be able to play basketball games. So the people who aren't wearing the mask are the ones complaining about it. And our kids, yeah, it's tough for them, but we're still playing. I mean, you got Minnesota, they haven't even tipped off or nothing right now, right across the river. So it's like you can complain about the little things, but the bigger picture is we just want to play basketball games, and we have that opportunity right now. I mean, we've just going out this weekend. We got River Falls. So we're sandwiched them into Saturday. We put Ellsworth into Monday. So now we got 4 games in 5 days. Yeah, well, that's tough, but so what? We get to play basketball games, and the kids, it's like, no, you know what? We're going to go sit home for 2 weeks and not play. No, the bottom line is, who cares what the schedule looks like right now, as long as we get to continue to play.
Right. What's next, Jordan? You got one dialed up. You gotta have a good one.
Well, no, I'm all done. I've got, a ton of stats here that I haven't mentioned, but we've touched on a lot. Um, you know, Nygaard, is there anything else that you're kind of itching to ask? Thanks, Coach Johnson, for answering, all those questions. It's so interesting to see, to kind of get a look into not only such a successful program, but kind of you and how you came up, and then also, your influences with Coach Gillespie and stuff like that. But I figured Nygaard would have a couple heaters that he was waiting.
Well, I do. I mean, there's some things we've obviously talked about. I asked you a lot of questions over the last 3 years, just because if you're going to try to model a program after someone, that's won a whole lot of ball games, or someone you can't beat, because maybe they'll give you some secrets. But my whole thing, like you talk about being a Phi Ed guy, my background was very strong in math. And so things like Moneyball, Jordan finally watched that movie, still hasn't read the book, which is shocking to me. But I've been since birth, essentially, a huge stat person. So, I think people might even tell you as a coach that they thought I relied too much on numbers, which is kind of comical because the numbers that are on the scoreboard are kind of important at the end of the night. But how much, from an analytic type standpoint, and I tried to chart everything. Shaka Smart, made one comment where it's like, if you can't, essentially, if you can't track it, you can't improve at it. And so, we'd have plus minuses on all of our kids. We would break it down to, how well pairs played on the court together. We could tell you, all the stats for every two-man combo that we played. And look, and like I listen a lot to Ryan Saunders, who's very much into analytics, and it's like he'll say things and it's like, yeah, that makes sense. How much are you into that, one, and how much of that do you share with your players?
I tell you what, that's something we never did, the parity and the group of stuff. So we're not that extreme. During games, even in my whole time, we've never been kind of a stat person during games. I mean, looking at during the game, what is our rebounds and stuff? I'm not that interested in that because I think that we have enough coaches to know where we're sitting. Turnovers is a big thing in the game, but after games, when we get our stats broken down, then I become kind of a nut. I could think of our Altoona game. I mean, we have 25 turnovers versus Altoona. I sat down, and every single turnover, I want to know the next possession, what they're doing and what they're leading into. So I sat down, I charted everything. We give up 38 points off 25 turnovers to Altoona. You take away that, and we just chop it in half. I think we ended up winning that score 58-55. And I just remember it was like, so I take that, I chart that. We talked to the kids about that. We play Regis the other day. We give up 23 offensive rebounds. We have 9 offensive rebounds. We have 3 more turnovers than them. So I tell the kids, I said, hey, that's 17 possessions they're creating that we're giving them. We're turning the ball over. They're out rebounding us. So like those kind of stats, man, I love doing this. I enjoy sitting down and being like, okay, you know what? If you're not going to learn how important a turnover is, I'm going to show you. You're not going to bust your butt in offense. I'll show you why they're important. So that kind of stuff we drill, and we try to always show the kids, like, this is why it's important, And I think sometimes throwing so much numbers at kids, high school kids, I think sometimes it overwhelms them. But if you really break it down and tell them why it's so important, show them why it's important. Hey, if we have 17 more possessions this game, we scored half of those, that could potentially, and breaking it down. So I think that we're big on it. I don't think we're nuts about it. I don't think we've ever been crazy nuts about stats, stuff like that. I think we're crazy nuts about scouting. That's our bit. We scout and we try to pick apart every, we have tendencies and stuff like that. I tell you, going back to that state championship game, in that state run, the East Troy, we found a tendency on Vukovic, if I say that correctly, AJ, we found a tendency on him where I really thought we won that game because of a tendency where he was significantly doing something over and over when he dribbled. And we knew that, and I really thought we shut him down because of that tendency. So I think those kind of details, Pat Patak, I mentioned him before, he's so smart. He's got such good basketball knowledge. He picks apart those things. So I think that way we're good about. But if I had to say, are you a stat nut? I'd say not to your extreme, which is awesome. The pairing and stuff, the combo stuff, which is great. But if we're gonna break it down, we're gonna break it down. There's gonna be there's a reason we're doing it. We're gonna show why we're doing it and the results of why we're doing it.
So has there been like a concerted effort this year to play at a faster pace for your team?
That every year we want tempo. Every year we want to play as fast as we can. I tell the kids we do transition drills every day. We have a new trend. We spend 15, 20 minutes and we want to push and we want up tempo. And to be able to do that, you need good guards. You need good point guards. Well,
right.
I think of the guards we've had, the Billy Brookshaws, the Michael Brookshaws, the Petey Brookshaws, the Parkers, the Jordan. So you can do that when you have great point guards. But we want to get out and we want to run. So this year's team, even more, I think we can run in. I'd say right now, currently, that's one of our disappointments right now in the season. We don't push as much as we should push. Our transition offense, in my mind, isn't where it needs to be right now. So your look right there, you look surprised, but I'm preaching to the kids. I just don't think we push fast enough. I think we could do a better job than that.
So one of the things, like for me, when I look at a box score, I'll look at field goal attempts, free throw attempts divided by 2, minus offensive rebounds, plus turnovers, which basically gives you an estimate of how many times you crossed half court with the ball.
Yep.
The slower teams typically around 60 possessions a game, which is why you see points in the 50s and 60s. The game that I thought we played at our best pace last year, or the pace that I most liked, was the game we went to Somerset and beat them. That was a 71 possession game for us based on just those numbers. Looking at your box score against Mondovi, 91. And so, if you score a point per possession, you're shooting 33% from 3, you're shooting 50% from 2. If you can be a point per possession team, you're right at that efficiency where that's promising. So when I see 91 possessions against Mondovi, 91 points, to me that's impressive. You scored 120 some on Ellsworth a couple of years ago. But I think I emailed you because I'm watching the film, and there was 32 straight possessions without a turnover. And so you're going to score more points per possession if you never turn the ball over. This year's team, and maybe that might be the thing, is there has been more turnovers. They're a younger group, but it's you're still, aside from the Altoona game, which consisted of my nephew leading the game in scoring.
That doesn't surprise me.
1-0 against Nick. So, to me, it's yep, if these turnovers that are happening start turning into points, you're going to graduate 70 points. Right now, have no returning starters in your starting lineup, and have the potential tonight and maybe not so much tomorrow, but Monday, to have a game where you score 100 points. That to me is mind blowing.
I agree, and I guess I'll be honest with you. And I'm always hard on the kids. I'm always expecting the most out of them. So me saying we're not where we need to be in transition, that's just me always wanting them to be the best. They need to be at the top. I'm always coaching kids hey, we're doing a great job, but are we doing the best we could possibly get to? And so that's just me kind of being me, honestly, with expecting more of them. But, looking at it that way, you can also say, well, we don't make 18 3-pointers, and we shoot just a little less percent from the threes. We don't go 18 for 43 or whatever we ended up. Things change. And I know that you're going to have nights where you don't shoot it well, So if we're going to settle for threes and we make 6 less, well, let's say we make 8 less threes, okay, and they're not falling, we push the ball faster in transition. We can open up easier baskets by layups. So, hey, yeah, we're shooting well tonight, but, hey, if we start pushing the ball against a 1-3-1 that Mondovi was playing, we're walking the ball up the floor. We're letting them set up their zone, which the best way to beat a zone, number one, is to push the ball. Don't let them set up. Right. So I was disappointed how slow we were kind of playing. We were letting them set up, and then, of course, we shot the lights out, which makes it look a lot better, the score, because we shot so well. But just with Jordan, he's such a good point guard. He's so quick. He kind of gets in the habit, too, where he just want to kind of slows down, or he should be, PD and those guys. It's we're a run and gun. Let's go as fast as we can. Let's put pressure on the defense. So we'll get there. And again, I think if you ask the players, I think they'd admit, like, hey, no, we can play faster. So I hope we get to where you're talking about, where we get to, the 100 points a game and stuff like that. But again, it's been just little steps for this team. But I tell you what, they're responding. Everything we're asking, they're responding well to it. And you mentioned we have 5 new starters, and we are learning very quickly for a young group. And I've been impressed with that. And a lot of that, again, it's that commitment. It's that dedication. I'm checking the huddle, how much film we're watching. We got guys watching 3-4 hours of film. I don't even know it's just incredible. And I'm not begging them to do that. I'm not telling them, hey, you need to do it. It's like the kids they're committed. They're dedicated. And it's like they want to be that next great team. And they also know, like, hey, this year is going to be tough with the conference being so good and obviously everything else going around. And so they know hey, you know what, they better put the work in if we want to compete.
So I don't want to look ahead. Right now we're recording this. It's Friday, later Friday afternoon. You have an Osceola game tonight at home. And then just like last weekend, you're going to turn around, play a Friday night game, and then play a Saturday afternoon game. And just looking at your schedule, River Falls may be, on paper, the best team that's on your schedule this year. So give us just a 2-minute break, because we talked to Zach last week. Give us just a quick breakdown on tomorrow afternoon's game. And this will probably be posted around the time that you're tipping off. So so
I can badmouth Zach and he'll never know it until after the game.
Well, you can certainly badmouth Zach. That would be invited.
Well, just to know, he won't hear till after the game, though.
Correct. Absolutely.
No, I tell you what, they are unbelievable. Watching them, even their first game, they've obviously coached against in the last several years, and guys that have played, with Johnson playing since his freshman year, and in the Twins and stuff like that. They are a heck of a team, and Zach is a great coach. They run such a great offense. They play so hard defensively, their man-to-man defense. Just watching their first game on YouTube, they're always in the right position. And they got those guys this year, like the Sherman kid. He just seems like he knows his role. He's going to be that hard-nosed defender. You're going to get what you get with the Twins, and you got Zach that. And then it seems like, they got 5 to 10 guys. The next 5 are all good basketball players that could beat you by the 3 and beat you by the drive. So we are going to have our hands full. We know we're going to have our hands full. They are legit number 2 team in Division II for a reason. They earn that ranking, and it's just a ranking. Coaches know that, but and Zach would probably say differently, but they should be proud of that ranking. They've earned that ranking, especially with the teams that they have to go up against year after year in that sectional. But I tell you what, with the powerhouse sectional, so when we don't play them, I tell you what, we are always rooting for River Falls. Like I said, we got good buddies over there. It seems like we always have great games. The last several years, it was just back and forth battles with us and them. So we're looking forward to the challenge. We know it's going to be a big challenge, but that's what you want to play. You want to play the big guys. You want to play the great teams, and that's why we look going in tomorrow. It's a great opportunity for us.
I'm going to ask you a very similar question that I asked Zach last week. I asked him, at what point did he realize that he wasn't the best basketball player named Zach on the floor? Tomorrow, you're going to walk into the gym. Their best player, last name Johnson. Are you ready to admit that you're not going to be the best basketball player named Johnson in the gym tomorrow?
Yes, instantly. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. No doubt. No doubt. He's way better than I ever was.
You were good in high school, so you were in the Dun St. Croix.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Were you the player of the year in the Dun St. Croix your senior year?
Yeah, player of the year.
That's ridiculous. So you played Baldwin your senior year, Baldwin Woodville, first round of the playoffs. Do you recall this game in St. Croix Central?
Yeah, there was this little freshman kid that.
Yeah, well, I was a freshman punk that was in the stands. But what happened was we had a bunch of kids that had left to go watch wrestling, so there was some debate on who was going to play. And it was like, well, Prescott's best player's name's Nick Johnson. He's a senior. And me, cocky freshman who didn't know any better, thought he might get to play. I'm like, I'll guard him. And then I watched the game, and I was like, oh, yeah, he's way better than what I could guard. I think he had almost 30. Prescott beats Baldwin Woodville. Jeremy walks out of the stands, and I was like, yeah, he's good. And I didn't know. I mean, as a baseball player, I didn't know who you were. So I didn't get to enjoy that. I did find some pictures on the internet, which is fun. But, yeah, what ended up – how did that year end for you guys? I don't know, so I'm not trying to be like a –
Yeah, we ended up losing to Glenwood City that year in the regional finals by 2 points. And they ended up going to – I think they lost in the sectional finals that year. So we lost regional finals, a great game, back and forth battle at Menominee. It was actually a tied game with 8 seconds left, and we fouled our point guard fouled in the backcourt, gave him 2 free throws, made 2 free throws, and then I ended up chucking up a half-court shot that was just – when I let it go, I thought it was in, but it was in and out. We ended up losing by 2. So, great game. We just couldn't get past Glenwood. We could never get past – Prescott could never get past Glenwood City. That was early to mid-'90s. It was Glenwood and Elk Mound. You just weren't beating them.
Yeah.
So.
And Baldwin Woodville's best team ever would have been Sean Tim's senior year, so 97-ish.
Mm-hmm.
Lost to Glenwood City in the sectional finals. And that was like the most devastated I ever was. I was just a super fan, I was a 7th grader. You don't know any better.
Mm-hmm.
And watching that happen in Amory was sad. So, all right, we kept you way longer than we planned to, but since you don't have a JV game to get out to, I figured that was okay.
No, you need to go be a parent. I'll go be a parent for a little bit.
For a little bit. Change a diaper maybe?
Yeah, I'll probably change a diaper before I leave.
Right.
I'm always really, really good when I know I have to go, because I'm like, hey, I'll get everything ready because I know I need to leave. So
that's what we're going to do now. All right, Nick, thank you very much. Thanks for joining us on the Western Wisconsin Sports Podcast. Good luck this weekend. We will stay in touch, and we'll revisit, maybe have you on a little bit later in the season, see how things are going.
I would love it. Thanks, fellas.
All right.
Thanks, Coach.